I didn't know what had happened to my amazing husband. What I didn't know then is that we were living with post-incarceration syndrome. So we thought we had beat that odd because he did not go back to prison. But what happens when the prison is in your mind? There were so many, and there is so many people who are experiencing the post-incarceration syndrome. Just recently on TikTok, a gentleman sent me a message, and he said, wow. He said, I thought I was the only one. And then another guy sent me one, he said, 4 words, just 4 words, but they were so powerful. He said, thank you for clarity.
Hello and welcome to Mentorship Matters, a podcast by trusted mentors. I'm Costeena Weathersby, and today, this episode is a little bit different than what you are used to. We're actually speaking with one guest, Shelia Bruno. She is author, she is an international speaker, and an educator on post-incarceration syndrome. But first, I want to remind you that Trusted Mentors is an Indianapolis nonprofit. We recruit, we train, and we connect adults as volunteer mentors with other adults who are at risk. So it could be someone who is 18 years old. They're aging out of foster care and they have to be an adult and they don't know what to do. Or it could be someone who has been homeless or at risk of homelessness. And lastly, it could be someone who is reentering after incarceration. At the end of the day, our mentors walk alongside of these individuals, helping them to stabilize their life and to succeed. So without further ado, our guest today, Shelia Bruno. Shelia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am truly honored to be here to be speaking about post-incarceration syndrome. So thank you so much for having me.
I am so delighted, all the way from Houston, Texas.
All the way from Houston, Texas.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So Shelia, why don't you tell the audience, I know I said you're author, speaker, tell a little bit about what you do.
So what I do is I educate individuals whose lives have been affected by incarceration, whether it is the citizen who is returning, whether it is a family member, whether it is a volunteer, or even a child of someone, because many people don't understand that there is an aftermath to incarceration. A lot of people come home and they're blindsided. They're caught off guard. The family members are caught off guard. So this is a conversation for everybody. Again, whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a mentor, this is a conversation. Mental health professionals, this is a conversation for everybody. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, of course. And we're going to really dig into this and find out more. But before we do, I am curious, and I'm sure the audience may be too, how did you get into this?
Well, Wife After Prison was birthed from pain. The pain of being married to someone who was incarcerated for 28 years. Kevin and I dated in the 9th grade, high school sweetheart, and I often say he's the first person who ever saw me as being beautiful, because I didn't even see myself like that, but he did. Yes. Kevin and I reconnected after 38 years, and for 28 of those years, Kevin had been in prison. Okay. And he and I reconnected after he had been home for 4 years. Okay. Absolutely amazing guy who I adore, very intelligent guy. I always wanted a husband who would pray with me and pray over me, and he would pray for me. We would read the word together. We would sing. We would run around the house playing like kids together. Yes. But going into that second year, I began to notice a change in him. He was withdrawn. Yes. He was isolated, easily irritated by the least things that didn't used to bother him. Aggressive tone. And I even went to him one day and I said, "You're changing on me." And I said, "Have I changed?" And he said, "No," but that's all he would say. I didn't know what had happened to my amazing husband. What I didn't know then is that we were living with post-incarceration syndrome.
All right.
We thought that we had beat the odds. Statistics say anywhere between 3 and 5 years that an individual would recidivate.
Yes.
So we thought we had beat that odd because he did not go back to prison. But what happens when the prison is in your mind?
Isn't that something? Things started to happen.
Things
Okay.
started to happen. And I didn't understand. I wasn't getting any answers from him. And I kept saying, "Hey, what's wrong?" And so when you're not getting answer, then you form your own opinion, right? Maybe he doesn't love me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's another woman. Maybe we got married too soon.
Yes.
And I remember one day, clear across the house, I said, "Do you not want the marriage?" And he yelled back,
Yes.
"Sheila, it's not about you," right?
Yes.
But he didn't know what he didn't know.
Yes.
And I didn't know that we were living with post-incarceration syndrome.
So that leads me to, how did you find out?
So Kevin and I tried everything. We knew we loved each other, but we didn't know where this disconnect came from, this distance came from.
Yeah.
And we tried everything. He said, "Maybe it's because I didn't court you. I want to court you, Sheila. Maybe it's because we got married too fast." So he said, "I'm going to move out and I'm going to come back and I'm going to court you. I'm going to go to my mom's house." And he did. Because at this point, I was like, whatever we need to do to try to figure this out.
Yeah.
And he moved out and he would come by. He wouldn't use his key. He would ring the doorbell. He would court me and
Yes.
take me out, bring me back home.
Yeah.
He wouldn't come in and spend the night. But that still wasn't the problem.
Wasn't enough. Yeah.
So it had gotten so bad, Kevin and I kept separating. And it began to take an emotional and a mental toll on me
Of course.
because it was a roller coaster ride. I never knew who I was going to get.
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll of Mr. Hyde. And I had worked so hard on myself to become the woman that I am today. And I felt myself losing myself. And I said, "I can't do this." And we went out to dinner on a Saturday. And that was the worst date I had ever been on with him.
My goodness.
He was distant, he was quiet, he was passive aggressively. And I said, "I'm going to file for divorce because I can't do this." I had begun to take sleeping pills like they were M&Ms. Wine had replaced my water. And I remember that day, that Saturday when I came in from the movies with him, I put 3 sleeping pills in my hand. And then I added another one. And I reached for a glass of wine. And I chased it. But before going to sleep, I said, "God, what has happened to my amazing husband?
Yeah.
What is happening with Kevin?" And I dozed off to sleep. And when I woke up, as clear as day, as you and I are sitting here talking, I heard God say, "Google, can a boy become a man in prison?" And I hopped up and I grabbed my laptop that now occupied the space where Kevin used to sleep. And I keyed those exact words.
Yeah.
And up popped a list of websites. The very first website was The Psychological Impact of Incarceration. And what I read is what I was living. And the second one was Post-Incarceration Syndrome and Relapse by the late Terry Gorski.
Yes.
And what I read is what I was living. And so after crying my eyes out, I sent those links to Kevin. And I asked him would he read it.
Yeah.
And within a few days, he got back with me.
Yeah.
And he said, this is it.
This is it.
He said, this is what I'm going through.
So it's interesting because you said before that he didn't have the words. And I'm so thankful to God because he will show up and he will answer you.
Absolutely.
He told you exactly what to do.
Absolutely.
And you were obedient.
Yep.
And you looked. And then you showed it to Kevin. And then Kevin, the light bulb went off on him to say, this is it.
He said, this is it. This is it. That was the language that we were missing. That was the language to the pain. And one thing that I always admire about him, we said, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
And he never once said, don't put my business in the street. His answer was absolutely.
Yes.
We have to talk about this. And so when we started talking about it, we found out that we weren't the only ones.
Of course not.
Right? But there were so many, and there is so many people who are experiencing the post-incarceration syndrome, and they don't have the language for it. A lot of the citizens who are coming home, they're struggling.
Yes.
And they don't have the language, but what I have learned is once they identify, you present the language, you tell them what this is, then they're open. Because a lot of them think that they're the only ones that are going through this. Just recently on TikTok, a gentleman sent me a message,
Yeah.
and he said, wow.
Yeah.
He said, I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
And then another guy sent me one, he said, 4 words, just 4 words, but they were so powerful. He said, thank you for clarity.
Thank you for clarity.
Yeah, he said, thank you for clarity. And another thing is, you know, a lot of organizations, they push employment.
We're going to talk about that, yes. We're going to go down that road. But before we go down that road, I want to get now into the trauma that creates the post-incarceration syndrome. Because, yes, they did their time. Mm-hmm. They're in prison 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And while they're there, they see and they experience so much. That's the trauma we're talking about. And trauma is a word that's used so often now.
Yeah.
Let's really break down what we mean by trauma when you're incarcerated.
Okay, so, and it took me to really learn and study trauma-informed care to really understand the magnitude of trauma and how it affects individuals. So I've created a framework which I call the 3D plus the V experience.
Okay.
So what that is pre-incarceration, you already experienced some trauma, right?
Yes.
Molested at 7, mom OD'd at 10, shot at 15, abandonment, bullied, poverty.
Yes.
You know, all of this is pre-incarceration trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It was never addressed.
Yes.
No therapy.
Yes.
Right? And so then you go to prison, and that's the disconnection phase. That's the next level, right?
Yes.
So you're disconnected from your family. You're disconnected from a world outside. You're seeing violence in and out every day. There's control. There's the rigid routine of being told what to do, when to do. Even you're seeing death every day.
My Lord.
You're hearing individuals in the middle of the night scream because they're being raped, right? You're seeing people being beat, but in prison, you mind your business, right? So you're seeing all of these traumatic experiences. One experience that I know it still haunts Kevin is that he told me about a time when he and his homeboy, they worked in the kitchen. He said we were in the kitchen. We was just chopping it up. And his homeboy left and said, man, I'll be back. And so he said a few minutes later, he heard over the intercom, lock down, lock down, lock it down, lock it down. They know what that means. Get to the cell. Something has happened. So he said he hurried up out of the kitchen, and there was a lot of chaos going on in the hall. So he said he got to his cell, and he sat on his bed, and he looked down. He was like, man, I wonder what happened, right? So he said he looked down, and he noticed that he had blood on his boot. And he just really trying to figure out, man, what is this about?
Yeah.
And then a couple of hours later, he was told that his friend that he was just chopping it up with in the kitchen had been stabbed 58 times, and he didn't make it. And so the blood that he was looking at on his boot was his friend's boot. Yeah.
And so that's just a slither.
Dog.
That's just a slither of what can happen and what one might see while they're in prison.
Right.
And then when you leave prison, what? Does that turn off?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And it's just compound. It's just, and that's the thing that was baffling to me in the beginning. Like, why isn't anyone getting this?
Yeah.
You have this pre-incarceration trauma, which is the distress phase. You have the incarceration trauma, which is the disconnection phase. And then you have the distress phase. You come home to a whole new world.
Yes.
You come home to technology.
Social media.
You come to social media. You come home to a whole new world. And the thing about it is, a lot of times when individuals get out of prison, we assume they're okay.
Yeah. It's time to
Take
get
the
a
time.
job and, let's party, you home.
Yeah. But what we don't realize and what I have come to find out is that these individuals are dealing with so much. And another thing is, while you are in prison, your head is on a swivel. Every day you are in survival mode. If you were there 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, your system, your brain and your nervous system has been jacked up because you have been in survival mode for decades.
Yes.
You can't even sleep. You have to sleep very light. Right?
You're used to it.
So we don't even think about the impact that has on the individual, right? And then they come home to this. And this is why individuals have said, Ms. Bruno, I want to go back.
It's too much for them to...
It's too much to process, and no one prepared them for this, right? No one prepared you that, okay, so when you were in prison, you really wasn't processing prison. You were surviving prison.
And
but
trying
now,
to make it.
But now that you're home,
you can...
A lot of them are processing those experiences.
Yes.
This is where the nightmares and the flashbacks come in. Right?
Yes. And what I was saying, too, is, they've had to hold themselves in a certain persona. They've had to have an angry face or an angry disposition.
Yes.
They've had to do that for survival.
Yes.
Because if they look too soft, they're going to be taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
So when they come out, it's automatic.
Absolutely.
They still carry that posture, the look of anger, because it's just become them after 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Right. It was a gentleman the other day had reached out to me, and he was talking about it. And the thing he said was he said, I didn't think prison would do me like this. He reached out to his parole officer, and he asked his parole officer, he said, is there somewhere I could go get me some help? He said, I didn't think prison would do me like this.
Yeah.
He said, every day I had to wake up in an aggressive mode. He said, every day. And you wear that for years. He did 14 years.
Yeah.
And he had to wear that to survive.
Yes.
But just because you come out of that back gate, you don't turn that off.
No.
You don't get to turn off aggression.
And not to mention, those who maybe have been in solitary confinement for, being put in there for weeks and weeks on end. Talk about that.
Right. So solitary, now I've heard some guys said, it was in solitary confinement was good for them because that's where they found their self or whatever. But they really don't understand the magnitude of what that does to your brain.
That's right.
Right?
Let's talk
And
about
so one gentleman, Mr. John Newton was in solitary confinement for 19 months.
That's
and
crazy.
he said mentally,
Inhumane.
he said mentally, I came unraveled. And he couldn't articulate it. He didn't have the language to explain to his wife what his struggles were. So he asked his wife to follow me on social media. Say, follow this lady, wife after prison, so you can understand me, right? Because a lot of them, they can't articulate. The pain is there.
Words, yeah.
But they can't articulate it. But Mr. John Newton said, mentally I came unraveled inside, no human touch. The only time that he was touched is when they were escorting him out because he locked down 23 hours a day in that cell. The only time he would get out if he was going outside to wreck. And so the only touch or interaction he had is when he had to stick his hand behind the door and have them to put the shackles on him. So he said, mentally, I came unraveled. So when Mr. John Newton got out to quiet the noise, the chaos in his head, he turned to drugs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He turned to drugs. And this is a lot of times people think drugs is just about, they just want to get high. They don't just want to get high. They want to numb that noise in their head.
That's exactly
it. And
it.
so unfortunately for Mr. Newton, he did that. He did it permanently because he was found deceased in his room in the boarding room house. He had died from an overdose.
Which leads me to, if they come out and they're using drugs again, and then if they're found to be in possession of drugs again, that can lead them back.
Yeah.
There's so much, even the system set up to be a revolving door, even with people who are struggling mentally, the parole officer may not see it that way. Give me some examples of that.
So, and this is the thing again, even the parole officers don't understand that you're not just sitting across from a person who has just come home from prison. You are sitting across from trauma. Mm-hmm. And they have no idea. Kevin and I did a workshop at a parole officer for individuals just coming home at a parole office. And afterwards, the parole supervisor, she asked if she could speak with me privately in another room. And I'm thinking, okay, Sheila, what have you done? You done said something you weren't supposed to say.
Right.
And within seconds of getting into that room, she burst into tears. And she said, you just told my story.
Oh, my.
She said, you just told my story. My husband was incarcerated for 19 years. Mm-hmm. She said, I've never heard of post-incarceration syndrome. She says, but it all makes sense now. And she said, I'm seriously considering divorce. She said, because of the roller coaster ride and all of the things that I talked about in my book, walking on eggshells, not knowing how to speak or what to say. These are the things that she was experiencing as well. And so this is why I'm saying, no one gets excluded from this conversation. No one. Lived experience, parole officers, lived experience, correctional officers, lived experience. If you have had a hand and some type of support for individuals who have come home from prison, you have lived experience. Not only do you have lived experience, you have witnessed vicarious trauma. That you have absorbed the pain. That's what that parole officer she had absorbed the pain of her husband, and that's what it is. That's the way it is. You see, passion takes over.
That's all right.
I love it. That's the way it is for so many family members. You are absorbing all of this pain.
Yes.
That your loved one. So their trauma becomes your trauma.
Of course, yes.
And this is why I say the whole house needs to heal. Yes. The whole house needs to understand PICS. And now I'm working on an ebook for children, how to talk to your children about PICS.
Yes.
Because when the father comes into the house and he can't connect with the child then thinks it's them.
Yeah. He doesn't like me.
Yeah, he doesn't like me. One person said
he doesn't want me around.
He doesn't want me around. And one, well, she's 14. She's 14, and I said, well, how is it that Dad's home? You know, he's here, but he really ain't here.
And you know what?
And they don't understand that.
They don't
So
understand
they
it.
need to understand that so that they won't take it personally.
And you know that statement, he's here, but he's really not here. It's
He's
not just a
here.
physical statement.
He's right.
She's right. He may
Absolutely.
be there, but his mind
He's not here.
may not be there.
He's processing.
Yes.
And you know what? And so ultimately, Kevin and I did get a divorce, right? Because I just wasn't willing to do that. But the wonderful person that he is, he says, Sheila, oh my God, this guy is so amazing. He said, Sheila, he said, for me, he said, trauma would have to be a lifestyle, as much trauma as I have had in my life. He said, trauma for me would have to be a lifestyle. And I don't know if he was willing to make it a lifestyle then.
Yes.
So we decided,
To-
if we can't be lovers, we're going to be friends.
And you are.
And we're
that's
the
good.
best of friends.
That's great.
We're
That's
the
great.
best of friends.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now I want to go to, because you're right. When someone comes out, we all just believe, okay, it's business as usual. Let's get you a job. Now you need housing first, job first, and those things are important. However, you and we've discussed offline that, if the head is not taken care of,
Yeah.
then they won't keep the job.
They won't keep
Let's
the
talk
job.
about the head, the heart, and the hands. Let's talk about that.
Right. So it was some years ago, and I tell you what, I did a speaking in virtual Las Vegas State Prison,
Yeah.
and afterwards, a gentleman came up doing Q&A, and he said, "I've tried therapy," and he said, "It didn't work for me." He said, "What's the solution?" And I didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
And I got off of that Zoom and I said, no one will ever ask me that question again and I not be able to answer.
Yeah.
So I went to work, I went to praying, I went to studying.
Yes.
Psychologists have said prisons are psychologically powerful places capable of transforming the thoughts and the behaviors of those who enter them, often in a negative way. So I pondered on that. Okay,
Yeah.
prison, powerful, okay, training the thought. So what do we need to do? We need to retrain those thoughts.
Right.
But we can't start by getting a job,
See?
right?
Yeah. A job is important.
Right.
Don't get me
Essential.
wrong.
You have
Because
to
they
have that job. You have to have the job, right? So I said, okay, 3 pillars to reentry. The framework is the head, because we have to address the mental health,
That's right.
right? We have to address the trauma that you have dealt with, been through. We have to address that survival mindset,
Absolutely.
right? And then we have to move to that heart,
Yes.
because your heart has become hardened in there because it had to,
Ooh, it had to survive.
right? So we have to start addressing emotional regulation, right? So if you can get the head right, you can get the heart to feel again. And then the hands,
And then we can move to.
right?
Yes.
But a lot of programs, and again, as we've said, the job is essential.
It is.
However,
Yeah.
I've seen people walk off of the job because the supervisor said something to them, and that reminded them of in prison,
Yes.
right? But also, I've talked with and mentored enough individuals to explain. And this is how I talk to them, because you have to
Those
meet
are
them
your-
where
for
they
your
are.
mentees, your mentees, yes.
So let me tell you something. You've been in the cage. You've been in survival mode for 20 years, 30 years, right? So what kept you alive in there? it will hurt you out here.
Right.
So we have to deal with your mindset, right? And after we deal with your mindset, then we're going to do it with your heart.
Yes.
I understand you need a job, and we're going to get there. But Ms. Bruno has to be real with you and tell you, say, man, we got to retrain your thoughts.
That's right. Oh my gosh, that brings me to, because recently at Trusted Mentors, we got a phone call from a gentleman who was very, very angry, very angry. He talked to me about the fact that he had just gotten out of prison, had been out for 5 months. He had already had 2 jobs, but he said he couldn't keep the job because his anger had him so angry that little things would just trigger him and he would end up fighting on the job or getting into it with people and then losing the job.
Yeah.
So that's when the light bulb went off with me and listening to your work, is that, we can get them the career advice and the skills on interviewing. And this gentleman, of course, it seemed he had no problem getting the job. But because he was not dealing with his mental issues and the anger, he didn't keep the job. And soon, if we're not careful, he will end up going back because he will do something to hurt somebody, manslaughter, all this kind of stuff, and he'll be back in.
Absolutely. A mother reached out and she said her son had gotten out and he had gotten a good job with UPS. I think it was like $23 an hour or something like that. But he called her and he said, Mom, I got to quit. He said, I have to quit. He said, because if I don't quit, I'm going back to prison because the supervisor kept jigging at him.
Yeah.
Because the supervisor knew he had been to prison. So sometimes supervisors, they're heartless, right? They're not considerate. There's not that compassion. And this is why I say trauma-informed care should be in every, if you're going to employ someone who has been incarcerated, you need to be taught about trauma-informed care, right? Okay. So he called his mom and he said, if I don't go back, if I don't quit, I'm going back to prison, right? And if someone would have talked to him about his head, and someone would have talked about his heart,
if only,
perhaps he would have enough emotional intelligence to deal with that, right? And then know where to go to, because my thing is this, everybody has a boss. So if your supervisor, if he is doing some things to you that he should, then you'll know to go to his boss. But the only thing he knew was to quit, because if I don't quit, I'm going back.
Doing the other thing,
going
which
back
is,
to prison.
yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm going back to prison.
So we've just talked, and I know, these have been some great examples, and I hope really helping people to understand what post-incarceration syndrome is. But I want us now to look at giving some messages to some folks, because we have some viewers that are, this might be, they're just, the light bulb is going off for them. They're recognizing and understanding what might be going on with their loved one, or what might be going on with themselves as they have now reentered, or the mentor that is listening from Trusted Mentors is now understanding why perhaps this person, when they're with them, they're all in their head. Don't necessarily know how to talk to them. So let's start with I want to start with the mental health professionals, because there's been some exact things that you have learned that if a mental health professional wants to help someone with post-incarceration syndrome, they need to do. And let's talk about that first.
So everybody, anybody, you cannot do anything without understanding. And what I have found is that many mental health professionals, because PICS, post-incarceration syndrome, is not in the DSM, then they dismiss it altogether.
And let's make sure we are clear about what the DSM is.
That's the Diagnostic of Mental Health Manual, Statistic for Mental Health.
For psychologists and psychiatrists and everyone.
So because it's not in the DSM, they dismiss it. Some have said, oh, that's just PTSD. But it's not PTSD. PTSD occurs from a single traumatic event, a car crash or combat or an accident. But PICS is thousands of traumas micro traumas every day. So my thing with this, what would you say? As I have said to so many, you have to understand.
Okay. Mental health.
You have to
professionals.
you have to really take time to understand the difference between someone who has been incarcerated and someone who has been noir.
That's right.
Right?
All
I've been
right.
on both sides.
Yes.
Right? Worked with people in Iraq and Afghanistan, so I've seen that trauma as well. Right? So although there are similarities,
Yes.
PTSD and PICS, but the root is different.
It's different. So
Right.
let's help the mental health professionals need to understand. Take the time
Take
to
the time
learn,
to really
research,
learn.
understand, talk with someone who's been incarcerated, all of these things. Okay.
The thing is, I've done the work. I wrote the books.
Right.
Right? So in my first book, Wife After Prison, Caught in the Aftermath, I was still in the aftermath. I was still on this roller coaster ride.
Yes.
So in my first book, what I've done, I expose PICS.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all better be aware. Prison got side effects, right? But in the second sentence, I defined it.
Yes.
What the symptoms are, what the hypervigilance is, what the emotional numbing looks like, what the arrested development looks like, right? So I would recommend, read my book. And this is not just a book, this is a lifeline.
It is.
Right?
You actually give this book to inmates before they are released from prison, which is ideal, optimum.
Yes, and this is the thing, and it's so wonderful what God is allowing this book to do, right?
Yes.
Prisons are now inducting this as their curriculum, pre-release.
Wonderful.
Right? Individuals have said, excuse me, that has written me, and they said, everybody that's getting ready to come out of that back gate needs to read this book.
First. Good.
Right? Because you won't be blindsided. You won't be caught off guard like Kevin and I. We didn't have this. And ultimately, I had to create what I needed, right? A support group, Wife After Prison support group for women. Another thing, so we spoke with the mental health professionals.
Yes.
Well, understand. That's what I would say.
Yes.
Understand.
What about the family now? Let's talk about the
Understand.
family and the wife.
Understand,
Yes,
right?
okay.
Understanding.
Same
you
thing.
can't do anything without understanding. And what I get, the question that I get asked the most, how can I support my loved one? How can I support my man? Have you read my book?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And then, of course, our mentors.
Right.
Our mentors. This could be a great resource for them.
Absolutely, because it is an eye-opening. It opens people's eyes. I remember when I first wrote Wife After Prison, right? Family members were getting it. They were getting it, right? And I felt so bad. I was like, the individuals in prison needs this. I felt as though we were talking behind their back.
Yes.
So I said, okay, what I'm going to do, I made a decision. I'm going to donate a copy of my book to every prison in every state. And so far, I've completed 17 states, self-funded. And to get letters from individuals on the inside, one gentleman said, wow, he said, I am messed up. He said, I always knew at the back of my mind something was wrong. He said, but I didn't have a name for it. He said, I've messed up my wife head. Another gentleman say, sis, he said, keep doing what you're doing. He said, I am where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
He said, I'm supposed to die here. This is my fourth bid. He said, had I had that information, he said, perhaps
I'd still be.
my wife would still be alive.
Oh, my goodness.
He said, when I jumped off the couch, he said, when a civil conversation turned to homicide, when I jumped off the couch and I murdered my wife, he said, sis, please keep pushing this message.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're welcome.
This has been such a conversation, and it really makes me think about the extreme need then for us to, of course, understand, ask questions, so that the person knows that they can put their guard down, that you understand, and then
Right.
when you do that, they're more apt to
Right.
responding in a way
Right.
that gets to what's
Right,
really happening,
right.
what they don't really understand is happening, but then they start to get it.
Yeah. I would say also to mental health professionals, if someone approaches you and they have been to prison, talk to them as a person.
Yeah.
Don't talk to them as a felon or ex-con or client.
Yes.
Meet them where they are.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And what they have said to me, individuals who have come home, because there's such a huge gap between mental health professionals and citizens who are coming home. And so one year I was like, we got to bridge this gap.
Yeah.
So I had a roundtable discussion on a social media.
Yes.
And I had mental health professionals and my experts over here, citizens who had been in prison. I said, just talk.
Yes.
Talk. How do we bridge the gap? How can they help you? Right? And what do you need from them? What do you need to understand?
Yes.
And what the citizens were saying was they need to come out of those books.
Come out of the books. Talk to me like I'm a real person.
Totally different. Yeah.
Stop using all the jargon and all of this. Come down on their level. Let's
Come
just
down
talk.
on their level. And that's what I've done with the second sentence. I broke all of that stuff down. And I'm going to tell you, it took me some time because I needed to understand.
Yes.
Before I form support groups and start talking to people, I really needed to understand, okay, what does hypervigilance look like? What does emotional dysregulation looks like? What does this aggression look like? So I had to, all of those clinical terms and all of that jargon, I had to pull it all back in such a simplistic manner.
That's right.
Whether you have a GED,
That's
whether
right.
you have
Like
a
a
PhD,
kindergarten can understand
you can
it.
still
Yes,
understand it.
yes. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. And
Thank you.
I thank you so much.
It's
for
my
coming on.
pleasure.
I'm really, really glad that you took the time to come to Indianapolis to meet with us.
Yeah,
It's
my
been
pleasure.
our pleasure. And we're just going to continue our work with you.
Absolutely.
And I'm all in.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of
All
course.
right.
Of course.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for watching this edition of Mentorship Matters. A little bit different, but this is one of our key audiences that we serve, those who are re-entering after incarceration. And if you're a mentor and you're watching, you've learned a lot today, I'm sure, and we're going to continue to give you more education, more awareness, more training to be able to help those who you are mentoring, helping them to stabilize and helping them to succeed. If you'd like to be a mentor with Trusted Mentors, please don't hesitate. Give us a call at 317-985-5041. Or, of course, you can go to our website at www.trustedmentors.org. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, be blessed and bye-bye.